There is a powder that costs $1 and permanently lowers high blood pressure. Not manages it, not delays the damage, permanently lowers it at the vascular level. 1 teaspoon dissolved in a glass of water, taken daily, and the silent pressure building inside your arteries. The pressure that causes strokes, heart attacks, kidney failure, and sudden death simply drops. Ancient physicians in Egypt prescribed it 3,500 years ago. A Japanese researcher isolated its active compound in 1962 and published results that should have ended the blood pressure medication industry before it reached full scale. It relaxes the smooth muscle lining of blood vessel walls. It blocks the calcium channels that cause arteries to constrict. It reduces systolic blood pressure by up to 23 points in clinical trials. No injections, no prescriptions, no side effects. $1 worth of powder from any grocery store? Then someone in a pharmaceutical boardroom did the math. The global hypertension medication market generates over $30 billion a year. 1.3 billion people worldwide have high blood pressure. A $1 powder that permanently lowers blood pressure is not a medical breakthrough to celebrate. It is a revenue stream to eliminate. They did not stop using it because it failed. They stopped talking about it because it worked too well. This is the story of magnesium, the blood pressure killer that ancient civilizations trusted and the pharmaceutical industry buried. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If these stories matter to you, the subscribe button and the bell are the best way to preserve this knowledge. This is where we dig up what the industry buried. To understand how a simple mineral can replace an entire class of pharmaceutical drugs, we need to go back to ancient Egypt. 3,500 years ago, physicians writing in the Ebers Papyrus described a condition they called the heart being too strong against the vessels. Patients suffered pounding headaches, dizziness, nosebleeds, and sudden death. The Egyptian physicians treated them with mineral-rich spring water drawn from specific desert wells. Water that modern geochemical analysis has confirmed was extraordinarily high in dissolved magnesium salts. They did not know why it worked. They only knew that it did. In ancient Greece, Hippocrates documented the healing properties of water from the region of Magnesia in Thessaly. Our patients who drank from those springs showed remarkable improvement in conditions involving what he described as excessive force of the blood. The mineral compound in those springs gave us the name we still use today, magnesium, named after the Greek district where its healing properties were first documented by Western medicine. In China, Han Dynasty physicians prescribed mineral water preparations to patients with liver fire rising, red face, pounding headache, sudden collapse. In India, Ayurvedic texts from 600 BC prescribed shilajit, a mineral-rich Himalayan resin, specifically for excessive heat in the blood vessels. Every civilization that encountered hypertension independently arrived at the same mineral solution. That is not coincidence. That is biochemistry. For thousands of years, civilizations understood that blood pressure was not a disease of the heart. It was a disease of mineral deficiency, and the cure grew in the ground beneath their feet. Now, fast forward to 1962. A Japanese researcher named Dr. Mitsuo Sano was working at a cardiovascular laboratory in Tokyo. He was obsessed with one question. Why do patients in rural mountain communities, who eat simple diets and do no formal exercise, consistently show lower blood pressure than urban patients on medically supervised programs? He began analyzing the mineral content of water sources across Japan. The pattern was unmistakable. Communities with magnesium-rich water had dramatically lower rates of hypertension, stroke, and cardiac death. Communities with magnesium-depleted water had rates that matched or exceeded urban industrial populations. Sano isolated the mechanism that should have changed medicine forever. The walls of every blood vessel in your body are lined with smooth muscle cells. Calcium ions enter these cells through channels and cause them to contract, narrowing the vessel and raising blood pressure. This is the exact mechanism that the most widely prescribed class of blood pressure medications, calcium channel blockers like amlodipine, is designed to interrupt. These drugs generate over $12 billion in annual sales. Here's what Dr. Sano documented. Magnesium is the body's own natural calcium channel blocker. Magnesium ions compete directly with calcium ions for entry into smooth muscle cells. When magnesium levels are adequate, calcium entry is naturally limited. Vessels stay dilated. blood pressure stays low. When magnesium levels drop, calcium floods in unopposed. Vessels constrict. Blood pressure rises. Hypertension is not, in the majority of cases, a disease of the cardiovascular system. It is a symptom of magnesium deficiency. The pharmaceutical industry spent decades and billions of dollars developing synthetic compounds that replicate what a $1 mineral does naturally. And they made sure you never found out. This video is just the surface. I have collected everything the medical industry does not want you to know. All in the complete forbidden camping vault. Natural compounds that clinical trials confirmed and that pharmaceutical companies buried. Emergency health protocols that military field medics used for decades. Mineral therapies that ancient physicians documented and that modern medicine erased from curricula. The link is in the description. But stay here. The story is just getting started. Now, here is where the numbers get truly uncomfortable for the pharmaceutical industry. In 1900, the average American diet provided 500 milligrams of magnesium per day. Today, it provides 175 to 225 milligrams. The recommended daily intake is 400 milligrams. The entire American population is chronically, severely magnesium deficient. Industrial agriculture stripped magnesium from the soil. Modern fertilizers replace nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but not magnesium. The crops grow. They look normal, but they are mineral shells. Empty of the compounds that kept human blood pressure stable for 10,000 years. And a pharmaceutical industry perfectly positioned to sell synthetic substitutes for what the soil used to provide for free. A 2016 meta-analysis published in Hypertension, the official journal of the American Heart Association, reviewed 34 clinical trials involving 2,028 patients. Magnesium supplementation reduced systolic blood pressure by up to 23 millimeters of mercury in hypertensive patients. Published in the AHA's own journal, confirmed across 34 independent studies. Never incorporated into a single official treatment guideline. Not one. The American Heart Association publishes the research, then ignores it, because the treatment guidelines are written by committees, and the committees are funded by the pharmaceutical companies that sell the drugs that magnesium would replace. So why is this mineral not in every doctor's office in the world? Why did medical schools stop teaching it? Why does your cardiologist never mention it? The global hypertension medication market generates over $30 billion per year. $30 billion. That revenue depends entirely on one thing: your dependence on their prescriptions. Every pill dispensed, every refill authorized, every follow-up appointment scheduled generates revenue. Magnesium generates zero recurring pharmaceutical revenue. You cannot patent a mineral. You cannot charge a monthly prescription fee for something that grows in the earth. You cannot build a $30 billion industry around a powder that costs $1. The entire business model of the hypertension pharmaceutical industry requires you to believe that your blood pressure cannot be controlled without their drugs. A mineral that does the same job for $1 a month is not just competition. It is an existential threat. So what happened during the 1970s and 1980s? As pharmaceutical companies began developing and patenting calcium channel blockers, research funding for mineral-based interventions quietly disappeared. University nutrition departments that had been studying magnesium and cardiovascular health lost their grants. Medical school curricula were restructured around pharmacological interventions. The concept of mineral deficiency as a root cause of hypertension was reclassified as alternative medicine. By the 1990s, magnesium had been erased from mainstream cardiovascular treatment knowledge, not because it failed, because it made the wrong people lose money. Today, medical students graduate without ever learning that magnesium deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency in the developed world. Cardiologists prescribe $200 per month calcium channel blockers to patients who are deficient in the mineral that naturally performs the same function. And 1.3 billion people with high blood pressure pay for a problem that was solved 3,500 years ago with water from a desert well. I need to be honest with you here. Magnesium is not a perfect solution for every case of hypertension. In patients with severe hypertension, kidney disease, or complex cardiovascular conditions, pharmaceutical intervention remains essential. Magnesium supplementation should never replace prescribed medication without physician supervision. And the timeline for results requires patience. This is not an overnight fix. but for the vast majority of people with mild to moderate hypertension, which covers most of the 1.3 billion affected worldwide. Yet this mineral works. It has been proven across 34 clinical trials. The limitations are real but manageable. The suppression is what is unforgivable. Here is exactly what to do. Go to any grocery store or pharmacy and purchase magnesium glycinate powder or capsules. Avoid magnesium oxide. It has only 4% bioavailability and will pass through your system without effect. Magnesium glycinate absorbs at 80% and produces no digestive discomfort. Take 400 to 500 milligrams per day, split between morning and evening. Dissolve the powder in warm water or take capsules with a full glass of water. Combine supplementation with 3 dietary adjustments. First, eliminate processed foods for 2 weeks. They are stripped of magnesium and loaded with sodium, which directly antagonizes magnesium absorption. Second, add 1 handful of pumpkin seeds daily. They contain 150 milligrams of magnesium per ounce, the highest concentration of any common food. Third, increase dietary potassium through bananas, sweet potatoes, and leafy greens, because potassium and magnesium work synergistically in vascular smooth muscle regulation. Within 1 week, most users report improved sleep and reduced muscle tension. Within 4 weeks, blood pressure begins to decline measurably. Total monthly cost, $1. A retired teacher in Ohio was prescribed 3 blood pressure medications after her systolic reading reached 178. She began magnesium glycinate supplementation alongside her prescribed medications with her physician's knowledge. Within 6 weeks, her systolic reading dropped to 134. Her physician reduced her to 1 medication. She has maintained readings below 130 for 2 years. A construction worker in Texas had been on amlodipine for 4 years. His readings never dropped below 145 despite full medication compliance. He added magnesium glycinate and dietary adjustments. Within 8 weeks, his readings stabilized at 122. His cardiologist called it an unusual response. It was not unusual, it was biochemistry. These are not experiments. These are people living with knowledge that works. Knowledge that someone decided you should not have. Dr. Mitsuo Sano continued his research until his death in 1998. He spent his final years watching the industry he had challenged build a $30 billion empire around synthetic compounds that replicated what his mineral did naturally. His research was published. His findings were confirmed. His recommendations were ignored. But magnesium does not forget. The chemistry does not care about quarterly earnings reports. This knowledge did not die. It was buried. Buried under $30 billion of prescriptions designed to keep you dependent. But buried is not destroyed. Every teaspoon of magnesium glycinate dissolved in a glass of water is a choice the pharmaceutical industry cannot profit from. Every blood pressure reading that drops without a prescription is a crack in the wall they spent billions building. We did not lose this knowledge, we just stopped looking. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and share this now. Every share puts a crack in the wall they spent billions building around knowledge that was never theirs to lock away. Every subscription keeps this channel digging deeper into the vaults they thought were sealed forever. The next vault opens soon, and what is inside is the one thing every person with joint pain has been told they cannot fix without surgery.